So I would like to introduce the Youth Forum organization, who is going to tell us about their very interesting work on developing a youth policy in Sudan. This is a youth-led organization who's been doing some research in order to work in partnership with the government to develop a youth policy. So Hashem and other folks from the Youth Forum organization, I turn it over to you.
Hello.
Yes,
thank you, Christy, for the thank you for the introduction. And here with me, Abir Omar. She's a program consultant for the Youth Forum organization. She will go through the presentation, and then I'll just comment in some areas. Abir.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Hello.
Just we waiting the presentation to appear on the screen.
I would like first to apologize on behalf of Ahmed. He's the director of the YFO, but he went in a mission outside Khartoum. He has very limited access to the internet. I will go through the presentation, and then we'll have time for comments and questions. First, we'll give you very brief about Youth Forum organization, which is a non-for-profit organization established in 2007, working in youth and children issues, focusing on child rights and youth empowerment. YFO is taking leadership role among the youth institutions on youth engagement and youth empowerment, as well as youth policy and youth engagement in research in general. Its vision is a community in which the rights of children and youth are protected and fulfilled without discrimination. And its mission is to work accordingly with a human rights approach. YFO has an experience in youth research among its throughout its different projects. For an example, Youth Forum conducted an assessment in 8 communities in 8 states in Sudan. And this project was funded by the EU and implemented in collaboration with the British Council, Sudan. Second experience, which I will go in details after in the last 2 slides on it, which the research focuses on the youth agenda and youth issue in order to draft the first youth policy in Sudan. This research conducted in 16 states in Sudan. Desk research on youth priority in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sport in order to review the youth strategy, which drafted by the Ministry of Youth and Sport with very limited participation of youth in the process and in the drafting. YFO also conducts mapping on youth institutions, NGO center group through their project with the EU. And they also take this as a baseline raw material for their upcoming research. They also have a desk research on issues and priority of the youth in conflicting area, taking the Blue Nile state as sample. The last experience of YFO in research is for youth policy. Youth engage in 2 processes. Youth engage in two main levels. The first level is the youth leading the data collection process, and the second level is youth have been engaged as the information, have been the main source of information. So I will go for the first level, where youth lead the collection of the data. First of all, we provide to develop a criteria for selection for the youth who will be leading the data collection processes. We consider the first the age, their background, adequate skills and experience in data collection and research methodologies, competencies such as positive attitude, friendly approach to deal with people, and how they can accept any other actions and react positively. And also general values such as integrity, diversity, and accountability. We have been used three tools of data collection: youth survey, in-depth interviews with government officials and bodies, and focus group discussion, which also targeting youth. All other information we have been collected through the program staff, but also we engage youth as well. Okay, for the survey designed to generate data on youth perspectives on their rights, their expectations, their agenda, their challenges, and it's mixed between qualitative and quantitative data. We targeted 1,200 youth in 16 states. I will show the results where the percentage between male and female who engage as a research. Main part of the surveys include first, personal information, geographical coverage or area, where it's rural or urban area, knowledge on youth issues and agenda, general opinion on the youth status in Sudan and in other communities specifically, and what would be the best contribution of the youth in upcoming youth policy in Sudan. The group discussion, focus group discussion with youth and disadvantaged categories, because we assume that maybe the survey will not reach every group, especially people with disabilities and women group. That's why we plan to engage them through focus group discussion to ensure engagement of all youth groups, to accommodate disadvantaged youth groups issues considering gender balance. Interview designed mainly for the governmental official or decision maker in general, and this includes Ministry of Youth and Sport, national and at the state level, as well as the Youth Parliament Committee, in addition to donor institutions who are working with youth or have interest to work with youth at national and state level. The interview mainly targeted decision makers and influencers. Sometimes they are youth and sometimes they are not. But the main tools targeting youth are the group discussion, focus group discussion, and the survey. In the upcoming slides, we'll see sample of the findings, the main findings of the research that we conducted on the 16 steps on youth policy. The first slide, we'll see the geographical coverage, different 16 states. It's also show us urban and rural area. So we can all observe that most of the youth engaged in the research are from urban area. It also show us the percentage of the youth in each state covered by the research. The slide after shows us the gender balance between male and female. So it's almost not so far. It also shows us the education, the level of education of people, of youth have been targeted by the survey. And at the third one, show us the why we have work here, because we have 8 at the survey. We have a question about what the top priorities or issue to you. We stated 8 areas depend on the previous research have been done at the same theme, youth policy. So the youth just tick on what's first, what's second, what's third. This diagram shows us what's the most and the least priority for youth. The last one shows us the age. As we define youth in the official definition or the youth ministry definition of youth age, it's from 18 to 35, as well as the African charter define youth from 18 to 35. So from 18 to 35, we have 3 different groups: 18 to 45, 55 to 30, and 31 to 34. And this shows us how many engage at what group. Thank you. Those are some pictures on the tools that we have been used. So this picture about a lady, a young lady. She's using the survey tool from West Darfur. And this is the workshop we conducted to train the data collectors.
Okay, this is just a quick about the survey here. Caroline have a question about where youth are part of the research from the start. For example, when designing the survey, this survey designed by the youth forum staff, which are youth, and then also it's shared with the group, showing in this picture, to give some comments on the research. So yeah, the designing, the youth involved in designing and also in piloting. Here we have, I have some comments through this presentation, just quick, and then we'll answer the other question. First, here we find that even the youth in the selection criteria for the youth to participate in this training, we try to seek the youth have at least some knowledge about the research and research methodology and this stuff. But actually, we lack of, here the youth lack of research tools. Even within the university, when we start dig more, we find that even in university, the students not take it seriously, the research methodology and this stuff. So actually in the training, we thought that they have knowledge. Yeah, some of them have knowledge, but the majority, we start from the scratch, about the training focus more about the research and why it's important. And then we went to the tools and the survey and the group discussion. Also, we try to engage more youth within the research from the rural areas. In some areas, we find it difficulties, and also this due to the fund limitation, so we couldn't access for more urban. But the majority of youth is in the rural areas. So here the question: how are you planning to disseminate the result and use them? Okay, the Maria, she have a question about how are you planning to disseminate the results and use them? Disseminating. So here we share the result first with the stakeholders, and within the survey, that after we piloted and we distribute the survey, actually we have some areas that I think we didn't get accurate data in some areas, and this due to the understanding of some questions from the participants on that. So we're going to have a second round in some areas to generate more data, and then we will share the results. Laura, I have a question. Do you think that the same type of research can be replicated upscale elsewhere?
Yes.
Yes, of course. And actually here also we now, I mean the youth forum now is the outcome of this research. Now the DFID here in Sudan, they signed a contract with the YFO to work in 3 different states, also to train, use the same approach, train the youth on research and data collection, but this time will be in deep research, not at the first one.
And they will be using technology.
Yeah, and also
given tabs to enter the data automatically, avoid using papers, and at the same time they will using accurately tools that will give them will save the time, and they could engage more youth in the research.
So this time they're going to use tablets, not hard copy. They will use the software or app through the mobile phone. Any other question?
Hassan, I'm just going to ask folks in the room. Yeah, I'm going to ask folks in the room if there's a question here. Anybody have a question? If not, I'll repeat it. I'm wondering that so youth are not engaged because the government has last, and it sounds like you guys are working with a little bit about the government's involvement and how you enable.
I didn't hear clearly, but if you talk about the question, your question is the involvement of the government.
It's about the enabling environment, the relationship.
Can you type the question, please? Because I can't hear you clearly.
Sure. It was, Hashem, a question about the enabling environment and your relationship with the government. A lot of times, these organizations have a difficult time because they're not getting support by the government. So the question is, how have you managed that relationship, and how are they involved?
Actually, I know this. The Youth Forum organization start work with the government, mainly the Ministry of Youth and Sport, since 2013, and they start with a small project in some areas. Here, just to give you a background, here, if you need to work in any kind of activities, or the NGOs, when they work out of Khartoum, this monitored by the national security. So you can't move anywhere without a permission from the national security. So the Youth Forum organization 4 years ago start building a relation, working with the Ministry of Youth and Sports in some areas, in different projects, small project here and there. And by time, they start build this trust, and then slowly the national security is starting giving permission to the Youth Forum to work in some areas like conflict areas in Darfur and Blue Nile. So this is not an easy job. As I hear from the Youth Forum staff, this took them 4 years, but finally now they getting the support not only from the ministry but also from the youth committee in parliament. So I think this is work of 4 years. Now we gain the result, because when they came to the idea of drafting the national youth policy, the undersecretary give the lead to the Youth Forum organization to lead this work, because I think they said frankly they don't have the experience and they don't have the budget to work on this field. But I think this is not an easy job to build a relation with the government, and especially because here in Sudan, the government unstable. Every 1 year or 2 year, the minister go a new minister in. So they build the relation within the staff, within the organization, head of the youth, director of youth, the parliament committee. So I think through these ways, they build a good relationship with the government, and now they're getting like official letters from the government to work in all over Sudan, including the conflict areas.
Because we also involve the government at other project called Horn of Africa Leadership and Learning for Action projects, funded by the EU and the British Council, where we give them opportunity for some of their staff to participate at regional event and global event in UK and provide kind of training for their staff on leadership, project management and other issues. And we have signed a long-term MOU with them. It's facilitated our movement from state to state, and also the communication with the national security and in the states. We normally use the MOU as a general frame, and then before each event in the state, we got a letter from the Federal Ministry of Youth based on this MOU to the state ministry and to the national security. We access some of the IDP camps in Darfur, where many of the NGOs, many of other institutions cannot access those communities, and we can work on them. Not all, but some of them.
Thank you very much for that explanation. I think we had another question in the room.
Hi. With surveys, they're always so complicated, and then adding youth factor and public students, and so how do they manage that factor? I know there was trade complicated using extra for the survey.
So the question was, just to repeat, how was it working with young people in the survey? What were some of the problems, issues, and challenges that you experienced? Since surveys are complicated.
I think this complexity, we face it within the data collector when we train them, and after we finish the training, we give them the survey themselves to test the survey. And we find some questions are complicated, and I think also some question is misunderstood.
For an example, unemployment.
Yes.
We understand when we design the survey and we test it, unemployment, it's someone who hasn't found a job. But in fact, there is, when we discussing the findings, we find that we should explain it more wider, like lack of opportunity, because unemployment, it's official job, but it could mean many other opportunities, like business, job, or any other engagement. But
some question, even if you ask it direct, also is complicated. Like you need to give to make it more simple. I think this is now what we face it after the final result. And some question, the result that we came to conclusion that the question is misleading, and even in some areas the data collector, I think, failed to fully explain to the participants. So it's really complicated, and I think but in general for the first round we think we're satisfied with the result, but we need to more simplify the survey, and some question we need to divide it to sub questions so that they will understand.
Thank you very much. So I wonder, just one last question, what are the next steps in the process developing the policy.
So the question is, what's the next step in the policy?
Okay, the next step is we're gonna do another round of data collection through the tabs with DFID, but it's only in 3 states. So we are looking for another source of funds to cover all the states again, and then we'll do the analysis again and share the findings, and start drafting the first policy. So the process is to do another round of data collection through the same group. We include more in the surveys and targeting the youth in unofficial sector, what you call it, like business, like those who are uneducated youth, illiteracy. We try to avoid to overcome the challenge we faced in the first round, and developing the surveys.
So the plan is. Yeah, thank you, Christy.
Well, thank you guys again.
Just want to say that the plan is in November. November is a deadline to have the first draft of the youth policy. So within this time, we'll develop the survey to get more details and go in depth in some areas, and then we will share it again with the stakeholders, so to come up with the draft. And also, like, I want to say that the more in-depth survey, I think the Youth Forum have been selected to the Youth Economic Opportunities Summit this year, September. So hopefully we will come with more details and general views, to share it with the summit participants.
We also have a great opportunity to generate more information. Why you have been we start communication with the National Center of Statistics. They will be doing consensus in this year or the first 3 months of 2018, and we negotiate with them if we could include as a general application some question related to youth issues, and they agreed to include those questions, so we could have more updated information on youth issues and agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you sharing your experience with us. We look forward to keeping up with things and hearing how
thank
things
you
come
for
along,
this opportunity.
and seeing you
Have
at
a
the
good
summit.
day.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone for your patience. My name is David Morgan. I am a Senior Program Coordinator with Banyan Global. This is Mr. Louis Alexander. He is our Principal Associate for our youth practice. Janet Stallard is our Vice President for Banyan Global. She's going to give a introduction about Banyan Global, and then Louis and I will take you through the presentation.
Thanks, David. So, hi, I'm just going to say a few words. I just want to welcome you here today, and thank you so much for coming. Banyan Global is a women-owned small business, and we're very pleased to be a small business on the YouthPower implementation side. We do have an active project in Honduras right now, through YouthPower, that David and Louis are going to speak about. But I just want to say that we think that the work that YouthPower Learning is doing is have 30 different IDIQs that we hold that are. This is the only one that really focuses on bringing the implementers together to really learn and share. And we have so many projects. We have great successes. We have failures. We need to learn from that, and we need to do a better job. And this is a great vehicle to do this. This community of practice on engagement is very important. And so very happy to have you all here, and thank you so much for listening to a great presentation. Take it away, guys.
Thank you. In tasked with implementing what's called the Honduras Workforce Development Activity, which has come to be known as Empleando, Futuros, or the Employing Futures Project. We're hoping that by the end of this presentation, you not only become familiar with our project, but that you guys yourself become more motivated to be implementing your own youth projects wherever they are in the world, and that you are excited to be joining us in employing the next generation of youth. Take it away, Louis.
Thank you, David and Janice. It's great to have all of you here. We have a presentation, and I hope it raises some issues and questions for you. And so we're going to start out. The first slide really talks about this community of practice, focuses on, that's another slide. I wanted to start out with the youth engagement theme because it is why we're here. And but I just very briefly, I'm going to share with you what are some of the things that we've done from the very beginning to engage youth in the program.
All right, it's the right one.
On this one.
Can you get my memory, Louis?
Are they here?
Yes.
It's good for you to be near the speaker, too, Louis.
Up here? Oh, okay. So some of the things that we've done from the very beginning, is that okay if I stand here because I got to read that?
Yep. Everyone online can hear?
All the way in Sudan? Okay. So some of the very basic things that we've done from the very beginning is that, for instance, we just had 3 major launch events for the program. And I would say that about 75% of all of the activities were just designed and run by youth. The Master of Ceremony was used. There were panelists on a panel with USAID, with the private sector. 2 youth were there. I was the moderator. And we had a series of skits that demonstrated some of the employment areas that youth would move into, and it was all designed by youth, and they ran with it. It was just amazing. We also have a communication specialist on the project. She's 23 years old and truly, amazing. I think that about 75% of our staff are under the age of 30 in the project. We have 27 staff right now. The name of the project, Empleando Futuros, was generated through a series of sessions with youth. So it came out of talks with them. We have a number of tools that we're using for both technical skills and soft skills, and actually a whole process that I'm going to be telling you about in a little while. And that was, in large measure, influenced by youth. We're hiring 2 interns into the program. We have a mentorship program, and we're going to be training mentors, youth to be mentors. And then the local organizations that we're working with to recruit at-risk youth, because this is a project that focuses on at-risk youth, they have an ongoing volunteer program, an internship program with youth. So in every way, youth are involved in the program. So, okay. So I wanted to start out with the big picture of the program is funded by the Central American Regional Security Initiative. It's sort of a project that is looking for its identity because it's a youth program, it's a workforce development program, but it's also motivated by a desire to create a sense of some stability, security, reduction of violence, drug trafficking, reduction, and migration. So development and youth is sort of, it's a means to an end, but it's an end in itself. And what's interesting about the program is that there's an impact evaluation that's being executed alongside this project, and we are one of 4 projects that are going to be involved in this impact evaluation that is being led by Dexis. And they're trying to determine if a workforce development program such as this one actually has an effect on the other things that I just mentioned in terms of security, drug trafficking, violence, the proliferation of gangs, and migration. So, so you see these arenas are sort of working with one another. We're focusing on empowering youth. We have a series of strategies for workforce development. Some are very traditional, some are not. You'll hear why they're not. And then obviously leading up to job security. So unlike many youth programs, there's a lot of training in youth programs. This one is really about getting them into jobs. And I thought it was interesting for the Sudan group talking about what is employment. Honduras has a 6% unemployment rate, which is like, not bad at all, but the underemployment rate is over 60%. So Honduras, like many countries around the world, is actually experiencing this bubble of youth that are not finding themselves. They can't find, what should I study, what should I work in, who cares about me, and there are places around the world where it's much, much worse than in the United States, where you can't find a place for themselves. So we've been dealing with that, trying to define what is actually employment. And for the Honduran government, if you work 3 hours a day, that is employment. And so we've been sort of testing that idea and seeing if could we modify it a little bit and see if we can, sort of push the envelope and go beyond that. So you'll hear a little bit more about how bad the situation is in terms of, why is CARSI focusing on this particular region of the world, and I won't steal your thunder on the Northern Triangle, as this area is called. So go, sure.
The Empleando Futuros project is being implemented in 5 municipalities. And the reason why these municipalities were chosen is because they've been designated as what's called hotspots. These areas have higher levels of crime and higher levels of illegal activity that goes on in these parts. Now, using the wonders of Google Earth, I will take you through our 5 municipalities.
We wish.
I think I'm cursed or something today with IT. Never works. Okay. So this is the Central American region that Louis was just speaking about. Now, you'll notice that Honduras borders Guatemala and El Salvador. Along with Guatemala and El Salvador, Honduras makes up what's called the Northern Triangle. What was originally deemed as a trade term in 1992 has come to describe one of the most violent regions in the world. Now, if we zoom in on Honduras, we'll go to Tegucigalpa. Tegucigalpa is first of our 5 municipalities. Now, Tegucigalpa, with a population of 1.19 million, is considered the political, administrative, and educational center of Honduras. It houses the government, it has most public agencies, and it has 12 universities. If we zoom in even further in Tegucigalpa, on the northwestern section, we see that there's a high number of what's called colonias in this part of the city. Now, this area of the city has a higher population density and also has higher crime activity. Would you like to mention the crime rates?
Yeah, something that stands out is, I was just reading the other day, by the way, that El Salvador just surpassed Honduras in terms of homicide rate. So back in 2014, Honduras had 86 homicides per 100,000 people. Anybody want to guess how much it's in the United States? Homicides per 100,000 people, that's how they measure it. We're 4. They have 14 murders a day, we have 33 nationwide. If we had the same rate as they did, we would have 400 homicides a day. Imagine that. That puts it into perspective. Since 2014, things have improved a little bit, and El Salvador now is in a worse situation, and a lot of it has to do with some of the measures taken by the President Hernandez, who is running for office again, and he's been getting a lot of support from the United States and other countries because he is taking some measures that have been effective in the security space.
Great. Now we zoom out and we head north to our second municipality, the city of San Pedro Sula. Now, San Pedro Sula is the second largest city in Honduras. It's considered the primary industrial center and is a very large business hub in Honduras. At the very same time, it's considered one of the most violent cities in the world. Recently, San Pedro Sula had the highest homicide rate for 3 years in a row. So working in this sort of environment can be pretty intense at times. Right northeast of San Pedro Sula is the city of Choloma. The city of Choloma has a population of about 243,000, and it actually has a high number of maquilas, or factories, due to the cheap labor. Next, we head northeast to the small city of Tela. Tela is a very small city of about 100,000, and it's actually considered a popular beach destination, which ties into Plan 2020 for Honduras. Under this plan, the government wants to create 200,000 jobs in the tourism sector by 2020. So Tela plays into that. Last but not least, we head to our fifth municipality of Lafayette. Now, Lafayette, with a population of 204,000, is a Caribbean port city in North Honduras, and it's actually considered the ecotourism and entertainment capital of Honduras. And when we zoom out, you can see our 5 municipalities that we'll be working in: Tegucigalpa, San Pedro Sula, Choloma to the northeast, Tela, and Lafayette. By the end of this 5-year project, our goal is to be working in 109 communities between these 5 municipalities.
So if the right slide comes up next. This project has, you're going to see some of the targets for the project. They're not, they're important targets in the sense of the target population, but they're not astronomical numbers. We have to train 75 over 5 years, and with a fair amount of resources and staff and 5 locations. We have to train 7,500 youth, get about 37, half of those employed. We also have another result, which is strengthening the National Agency for Technical Vocational Training, which is the one that not only provides most of the training or instructors to other organizations that are doing the training, but also certifies you. So whether you're going to become a plumber, or any trade, you get a certification, and people respect that. And the last result is really focusing on tertiary services, which means in the youth space, and in particular in the at-risk youth area, we're focusing on youth that are considered may need primary services, secondary services, and tertiary services. In general, they must be at risk, which means that they've dropped out of school, they're not employed or super underemployed, and run the risk of getting into trouble. So tertiary services is for youth that need even more support, and we'll get into that a little bit later. So this chart, and I wish it were larger, shows some of the, that's too bad, because I didn't think this would be here. So this just shows a series of the process of training and helping youth move through this process all the way into job insertion. So from the very start, we're working with very locally based organizations that can do one of the most important things in a youth program is recruiting the right youth, and then categorizing them into primary, secondary, and tertiary. So the reason why the numbers for training and job insertion are not so great is because they are important and significant and challenging for a group like this, but USAID really wants us to learn along the way and see what's working and what's not working. And so the strategy of actually recruiting the right youth from those locations, the hotspots that David was talking about, is essential. Moving on to that, then we have training in life skills. And we have the pop-up. There it is. Human Skills acquired by a teaching or direct experience used to handle problems commonly encountered in daily human life. Okay. You know, we've been hearing soft skills and how important they are. So there's a lot of that in there. Cognitive behavioral therapy, another set of trainings that are, all of these phases are being sub-granted or subcontracted to local organizations. So CBT, short-term goal-oriented psychotherapy treatment that takes hands-on practical approach to problem solving to change patterns of thinking or behavior that are behind people's difficulties and change the way they feel. They feel and their attitude towards things. Then we've got work readiness training, which is the work-ready individual possesses the foundational skills needed to be minimally qualified for a specific occupation as determined through a job analysis or occupational profile. All of these will have manuals and a process that they go through with organizations that have experience doing this. There's been a lot of experience in some of this area, but this project is bringing all of these pieces together all the way to job insertion. So it's not just the training or preparing people, but actually working at the later stages with the business community to get them into jobs. Then we've got the actual professional or technical vocational training that again is going to happen through private service providers or the government agencies that are able to do that. And then we have a 3-day capstone program, which is, you know, a capstone is kind of the culmination of everything that they've done, refreshing you. Has anybody been a Peace Corps volunteer? At the end of a Peace Corps service, we have something called the Close of Service Conference, COS Conference, and it prepares volunteers for, you know, coming back into the United States. And it's a lot about, you know, sort of recapping the whole experience and helping them, you know, thrive in the next stage of their life. So this is sort of what we're doing here. And then the job insertion, which is actually job placement. We have internships. We have accompaniment to youth for several months. And we haven't gotten to that point yet. I mean, we're still just in this stage right now. So wish us luck when we get to this point. So that's very, very quickly sort of the process, which I can answer questions about later. Second result, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but this is a massive government bureaucracy called the state apparatus. It's got almost 1,000 employees, $35 million budget. Everybody in the country contributes to the budget by 1% of your budget goes to this agency. And it's very political, very bureaucratic, and so we've been tasked with helping them be more market-driven, which really fits nicely with Banyan Global because that is, you know, one of the foundational sort of mantras that we were created under. And so given the political challenges and you know, not sure what level of commitment the government was going to provide to adjusting or moving this organization forward, we came up with sort of 3 scenarios. You know, a rocket is obviously much more sophisticated and quicker and more expensive, obviously, than a car, and likewise a bicycle. And so the scenario selected by USAID would depend on the kind of support that we would get from the government. So if USAID said, okay, we want the rocket option, then we said, okay, then we need sort of these things from government in order to make sure that we're going to be successful. And so we're still in that negotiation space with the government. There's a transition, there's a new government coming into place, there's going to be a new director for the institute, and so forth. So one of the things that we're doing with this, I should mention, is that we are doing a labor market assessment so that we can ensure that the sectors that have been identified already by Plan 2020, as David said, which is a partnership, it's a document, a strategy that's been crafted by a partnership between the government and the private sector. It's a big deal. The government is counting on it, working. 600,000 jobs have to be created over the next till 2020, and every one of those sectors has identified spaces in which, you know, people should be employed in. So we're piggybacking on that effort and hoping to help INFOP with our labor market assessment targets their teacher training, instructor training, and curriculum development in response to what the labor market's looking for.
Result 3 deals with what's called tertiary services, as Leah had mentioned. Now, tertiary services deals with the most intensive level of support and intervention. It attempts to reduce the impact of a condition or a problem on an individual's ability to function in the least restrictive setting. Now, for this result, we'll be utilizing what is called a youth service eligibility tool. A youth service eligibility tool, or commonly known as YSET, is an interview protocol developed by gang researchers to measure various levels of risk for youth who have been referred for services. It essentially attempts to calculate risk to decide whether youth are eligible for these services. Now, for these youth who are eligible for these services, we'll be utilizing various methods to work with them. We'll be using psycho and social specialists, targeted treatment plans, referral and integration services, and most importantly, we'll be creating safe places for these youth to process trauma. It's a very big part of working with these youth is they've gone through very traumatic experiences, and they need to be allowed that space to be able to process those experiences that they've had. Now, when we analyze the relationship between at-risk youth, gangs, and violence, there are 3 questions we have to ask ourselves. The first question is this: why do at-risk youth join gangs? Does anybody have an answer why they think an at-risk youth would want to join a gang? Sense of belonging? Okay. What's that?
Might be the only family they have similar.
Might be the only family they have? Anyone else?
So they don't have jobs, and that provides something to do every day, a group to interact with.
Okay, very good. So instead of me answering this question for you guys, I would like us to take a look at a real-life example of why youth join gangs. We're going to be hearing from Charlie. He's a 16-year-old boy who is the leader of a gang in El Salvador. Sure. Now let's hear from 2 of Charlie's friends, Sochi and Travieso. Two boys, they're 17 years old, and they're in the same gang.
Sochi's mother left him to work as a cleaner in the U.S. when he was a baby.
So then the second question is this: why do youth stay in gangs? Does anybody have an answer of why youth want to stay in gangs after they've joined?
It's difficult to leave.
Yeah.
survival, and to, they've already kind of dug themselves into a situation that's very difficult to get out of. It's not a matter of just joining a club and then they don't want to be part of a member of a club, so it's difficult to get out.
So once you're in, you're in. Very difficult to get out. Anyone else?
Including all those needs for them. I mean, it's providing love and income and community and human needs are making it.
It's its own kind of safe space in that you're on the inside. You know, it's a safe space within that group, and it's not safe outside of it if one chooses.
Not safe outside of it.
Yeah.
Good. Let's hear from Fravieso about why he game. So then the last question is this: why do some youth eventually want to leave the gangs? To find the answer to this, we're going to hear from Charlie and Fravieso about why they could eventually leave the gangs. So it seems that we found some answers to our questions. Youth join gangs because they're looking for a community. They're looking for a sense of empowerment. They're looking for family. Youth stay in gangs for la causa, or for the cause, fear of retribution or incarceration, and fear of the real world. But eventually, a lot of youth want to leave gangs because they want to be with their family. They want to have a family, and they want to work. They're also looking to make something of themselves. So if we really look at those answers, family, community, work, and making something of yourself, these are all things that all of us search for in our own lives. So these at-risk youth are no different from us. And that's why our project is here, so we can provide those opportunities for those youth to pursue those very same things that we pursue in our own lives.
Yeah, that's, I think those comments on the video are very telling, and all of you, answered. We have a sense of what human needs are and what these youth are going through. To me, it's amazing. I've worked throughout Central America, and I've worked in Mexico, and to see the number of youth that are coming out of Honduras moving north is incredible. And you go to entire villages, and there are no young men. They've all left, and some women, looking for an opportunity in the north. So the program, as David said, is really about trying to help them find their way, but in their own country, not move up north. We don't want them to come here if there are opportunities there to be had, which there should be, because there's a lot of entrepreneurship going on in Central America. They have huge potential. So these three areas, that David's put up there, social connections, how do we help them move away from the connections that are so hurtful and damaging to their lives to create other types of connections that are more constructive and connected to the larger society, especially in an environment like Honduras and some of the other countries where trust is at an all-time low. Corruption, if you talk to the people that are involved in rule of law programming, corruption is their number one enemy. So you don't know who you can trust. And you certainly can't trust the leadership in many cases. So the political and so forth, everyone's after, their own. So they've created their own sort of state, It's their own sort of environment in which they thrive. What I find very interesting is to hear the leader, the 16-year-old. That guy's a leader. Did you hear the language they used? I was selected. It's for a cause, and I have to respond. I'm a responsible person in this community. That guy could be anything he wants to be under the right conditions, right? Financial stability is one of the things that we're trying to provide through an employment program. And of course, the emotional stability, which is the most challenging of all, because they have some emotional support within the communities they work in. So connecting them to other sources of stability, inducing environments is going to be more challenging. And that's why a big part of the effort is youth, supporting other youth. I think that's a really important message to leave with you, the importance of, yes, we're designing these programs, we're running these programs, but at some stage, what's worked for them is that they work well with one another. Let's use that as a basis for taking them to another place.
Thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate that. We're moving towards out of time, but I'm just going to present you with one question that folks have written in the chat box. One question that I think maybe you haven't answered so much is, how is gender integrated into the program? So maybe you guys could talk for a minute about that quickly, and then we can
Christine's on
sign
the
off.
line.
Yeah.
Can I make her present? She's typing now. Christine,
would you like to answer the question? We're going to make you a presenter. Christine, can you hear us? You can connect your audio at the top of the screen by clicking the mic icon so that it turns green. It connects to your microphone.
To give you a bit of background, Christine Sezone is one of our gender specialists who has been heavily involved with our project in parts related to gender.
Christine, were you able to make the microphone icon green? Well, I'm guessing
that
not.
doesn't work. Just a few things I'll tell you about. 60% of the youth that we need to reach need to be males, because males are the ones that are more attracted into or move into gangs. We do have a very robust gender strategy. We have a full-time gender person on the project. We've been applauded by USAID because of the area of intervention that we've included in our gender strategy, including the LGBT community in terms of diversity areas, so broadening beyond just a gender strategy, so gender and diversity writ large. And so we've had a lot of support from people on the ground, and USAID Honduras, with a very impressive gender team that have been very receptive to what we're doing and provided some extremely valuable input into the process. We'll be providing training to all of the organizations that are subgranting or subcontracting with us in terms of gender, and obviously it's going to be included as part of the subgrants that they'll be receiving. I don't know if you want to say. Also, at the beginning of the project, we conducted a gender analysis.
Hi, David and Louie. Can you hear me now?
What is the situation situation of gender and gender-based violence in Honduras.
Oh, thank you
That
very
then
much.
led to a gender inclusion
It cut out for a
strategy
bit.
that we've integrated
And so
into
just
our
I
program.
can quickly
And
jump
also
on from
back in
here, and
March,
thanks
we
very
held
much both
2
for
gender
giving a great
workshops,
roundup of
one with our Office
some of the
of
gender
Youth Development
activities.
and another
Okay for me to add on
workshop
from
in
here?
San Pedro Sula, and we actually had a gender specialist along with Christine
Okay,
to fly
so
down to Honduras and
sure,
do these
just very quickly,
workshops
some of
with
the
our
main themes
team
that we're
to
looking at from
ensure
a gender
that gender is
perspective, since
fully
gender really
integrated
is
into our youth
cross-cutting, is
program.
to ensure that it's absolutely not looked at as kind of a checkbox activity, and that our gender specialist who is embedded within the project is working across all of the technical components and activities and the concepts of masculinities, new masculinity, and how that goes into the vocational training and the work that we'll be doing with these
Yeah, we
at-risk
have
youth,
1 minute.
and also taking into
Sorry about that.
account that sometimes this type of programming can have unintended negative consequences, such as increases of gender-based violence. So we're trying to keep in mind all of these different kind of moving parts between the dynamics between men and women and boys and girls as we are working throughout the 5 different key areas in the country.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you for that. Thank you for the very interesting presentation, multimedia and all. And so I think we're just going to have to wrap it up. I do want to let you know there was a 3rd item on the agenda, but we can do that conversation by email. What we've done is developed a list of youth engagement indicators. Identified them by level, youth level, program level, community level. I'd like to share it with the community of practice and get feedback on that. Once we get folks' feedback, we're going to be developing a guidance, which is really an adjunct piece to the Positive Youth Development Measurement Toolkit, which does include some youth engagement indicators. I think maybe a handful, as I recall, Cassandra. But we have a list of around 50 here that we've combed from different documents, research documents and reports that I think add maybe a different level, a different lens. So I think there's some really good ones here that people might be able to adapt for their own programs. So we'll be putting that out as a technical output from the community of practice. So, Mike, I think maybe just to wrap us up from some conclusions, I neglected to introduce Mike Swikert at the top of the meeting as our new Youth Engagement Community Practice Co-Champion. Katie Campos has left us for Facebook in California, and so she's still a member of the group, but we now have our new co-champion, Mike Swikert.
Thanks for the introduction, Christy. I'm really happy to be with the Community of Practice as co-champion. It's really exciting. So just a few closing announcements since we're out of time. As Christy mentioned, we welcome your comments on the indicators, technical brief, and preparation for the technical brief. So you've shared the spreadsheet with everyone through.
I will do that via email today. Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, we would welcome your contributions there. A few other just items for sort of next steps and things you can be involved in. We'd welcome you to upload any resources you have on youth engagement to the youthpower.org website. It's easy to find if you just go to the youthpower.org site and then go to the resources link. There will be a webinar coming up hosted by the Community of Practice as part of our series of 3 webinars co-hosted with the American Evaluation Association. That will be coming up in sometime late summer, early fall, so you can look out for a message about that.